Marketing is defined as the process of identifying, creating, and delivering value to the consumers at a profit. Basically, trying to identify what the customer is looking for, and then creating a solution for it, and then delivering it in the hands of the consumer to ensure and at the same time ensuring that you make some profit out of it. So if I take this definition and I put it in a table, so we start with exploring value creating opportunities, then choosing the kind of value which you want to deliver, then creating some sort of communication around it and delivering the value to the consumers, and the last is sustaining value. So like we can cover the basic concepts of marketing if we just look at this definition. So on the first part, if you look at exploring value creating opportunities, there is a 3C's framework which people often talk about. Basically, your customers, your company, and your competitors. These are the 3 things which you should basically try and understand when you're trying to identify what are the areas which are available in a market, or how is the market structured, what are the opportunities which are open for you. Customers basically involves understanding what the customers are looking for, what products exist in the market which are satisfying their need at present. Company, basically about yourself, what are your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities what you can exploit. The competitors is basically understanding what your competitor has which you don't have, which is setting them apart, and how you can bridge the gap, or how you can come up with something which they do not have. This is basically how the 3C's framework look for. If we move forward and try to choose what kind of value we want to deliver, the first aspect over here is something which is known as segmenting. Basically the STP framework, segmenting, targeting, and positioning. Now this is something which is very important and something which is used in daily life of a brand manager as well. Whenever we come up with a new project or a new proposition or a new product, or even variations to the existing product, one of the first things which we do is try and identify what are the kind of consumers which we want to talk to. So the first step over here is like segmenting the entire market, and there are multiple ways of doing that. Broadly, they can be classified into 3 ways: demographic, geographic, and behavioral. Basically, some demographic aspects about them, their age, education, income level, etc. Geographic, basically where they are located: small cities, big cities, rural, urban, or like this can even be specific cities as well. And behavioral is basically the kind of basically about the behavior of the consumer, or what the consumer thinks, how the consumer acts, what is the daily activities of a consumer. An example over here will be like if you are speaking to say a person living in Mumbai and like belonging to the say the upper middle class. So one of their behaviors might be that they are very active on social media, and that is something which you can use when you're designing your communication or your positioning, because you know that this is a place where they frequent and you can exploit that channel to reach out to them. A few important things when you're doing segmenting is to ensure that whatever segments you create should be like sustainable segments, should be like proper segments which you can target, should be actionable, should be different from each other. There should not be overlap between the different segments which are there. And most importantly is that whatever segments you are creating, these should be some things which you can actually access. So, suppose a company which manufactures a low price detergent, if they create and choose to target a segment of like upper middle class or upper class people in like the top cities of the country, that is not accessible to them directly. That they do not have ways or methods in order to reach out to them, and that is not a very good segment for them to have. Once we have the segments in place, the next important thing which becomes is targeting. Basically choosing the kind of segments you want to target. You can go for a mass market or like target all the segments. This is more in terms of products which are used by everyone, irrespective of their age. For example, age or any other classification. For example, a detergent. Or you can go for multiple segments. This can become an example. Here an example can be, say, a gym. For a gym, there can be multiple segments out of the entire market which they can choose for. Or you can go for a single or a niche segment. This can be something, for example, say a Lamborghini. A Lamborghini may choose to target only a single or a very niche segment of the market. Or you can even go down to a level of targeting specific individuals. This is more in true of a B2B framework, wherein you target specific individuals. Once you have decided like the various segments in the market and the ones you want to target, then you move on and deciding what your positioning will be. There are basically two important things when you are looking for positioning. First is a perceptual map. A perceptual map is nothing but just what is the perception of your consumer about your brands or about the brands in your segment, in terms of there are basically two lenses through which they look at this. One is the quality of the product and one is the price of the product. And the second important part is like whatever product you're trying to create or trying to create in order to deliver value for the consumers, what are your POP and a POD for it. POP basically refers to points of parity. What are things which are existing in your product as well as in your competitor products, basic hygiene materials. And POD basically means a point of differentiation, like what does your product have which your competitor does not have. So if I take an example of, say, the sanitary pad market. So for a sanitary pad market for Whisper, a POP is basically the absorption capacity which our pad has. The POD becomes the magic gel which is part of the core of the pad, which absorbs more as compared to the other competition. And once you have a perceptual map or a POP, POD things in place, then you translate all of your learnings, all of your insights into the marketing mix. Marketing mix is basically the 4 P's of marketing. This is basically how a perceptual map looks like. You map against a price and a quality. And this is for the chocolate market in India. These are how POP and PODs are defined. And I have already given you examples what these look like in a practical sense. And this is what the marketing mix is. Now here I would like to spend a little bit of a time, because this becomes very important for you, especially in your interviews and your GDs, because in a lot of these places you are given certain cases and you are asked to come up with solutions around it. And for that, it is very important that you very clearly understand the demarcation between all of this. When it comes to a product part of the marketing mix deals with your product features, your packaging, your logo. These are the only 2-3 things which come under the product. Pricing, I think, is very straightforward. Promotion includes all your activities which you use in order to reach out to your consumer. This ranges right from an advertising to even the sales promotions which are run on stores. All of these comes under the promotion mix. Place refers to the distribution part of things, how you are reaching out to the consumers, the various distribution channels, the e-commerce, etc. When it comes to, suppose you're asked a question about, you are said that you are a sales manager and you are asked to come up with some sort of a solution. So as a sales manager, you can only manipulate the place and the promotion aspect of it. And within the promotion also specifically the sales promotion and the trade promotions. The trade promotions basically referring to the terms which you give to your distributors or to the retailers. But when it, suppose you are given the role of a brand manager or a marketing manager and asked to come up with a solution, then you have a scope of manipulating all the 4 P's. If you move on, there are certain other useful concepts which are there. I will not be covering it. I'll just leave it on the slides here. You can go through it later. Basically, there are a number of pricing strategies which you can use in order to decide what kind of pricing your products should have. Then there is a purchasing funnel which is involved. Whenever you're talking about a consumer's decision-making process or how they decide on what product to buy, this is more or less a kind of funnel which they follow. What they exactly do in each step is what is written alongside in both in terms of a B2C and a B2B aspect. You can read more about it. This concept is very useful when you are coming up with suppose this case wherein your sales is declined, or a case wherein you have to like come up with a new product, and more moving into a e-commerce or an online purchasing aspect as compared to an FMCG aspect. This becomes much more relevant there. Then there is a concept called moments of truth. Now this is something which was like coined by a ex-P&G CEO. So this is something like whoever you speak to at P&G, this is something they'll definitely point out to you. Basically, moments of truth are the points at which your brand, at which your consumer interacts with your brand. It starts with a zero moment of truth, the first time when they start searching about, or they come across your brand for the first time, be it through ads, through Google searches, through on Instagram or social media, etc. Moving on to the first moment of truth, when they actually see your product on the shelf. The second moment of truth is when they purchase and they use the product and the kind of experience they have on it. And the third moment of truth, which has been added later on, is your post-purchasing experience and the loyalty which you are able to build with the consumer about your brand. Whenever we try to like come up with some new sort of a communication or a new sort of promotion or a new product, the zero and the first moment of truth are specifically the things which you keep in mind. How should a brand be presented when they are interacting with a brand for the first time, and how should our packaging, our logo, our point of sale displays, etc. look like in order to attract the consumer's attention at the first moment of truth. Now moving on, so I want to do this part a little differently. I will not cover all the frameworks which I have over here. I'm pretty sure all of you must have come across these frameworks and most of you know what these are. I would like for every framework which I want to cover, I would just like one of you to unmute yourself and ask a question, and then you can try and use this framework in order to answer it. So I think it will help your understanding much more.
Correct.
So the first thing is the ANSOFF matrix. This is something I think which has been done to death. Everyone talks about this. This is like the first thing when you learn about marketing, like this ANSOFF matrix. And if anyone किसी को कुछ आता भी नहीं है, this is the first thing कि ठीक है marketing interview के चला ANSOFF matrix देख के चले जाते. To be honest, till date I have not found one example in my life where I have used this. You can all read about this. I will not like talk about कि क्या होता है नहीं होता है. All of you can go about this. This is something which is I find this a very interesting concept when it comes to BCG growth share matrix. So basically यहाँ पे whenever this is used to understand the kind of growth potential in a market and how a market is structured. You basically try to see for the various brands which exist in the market, what is the kind of market share which they have, and in general, how is the market growing. Again, this is something which is very, very popular and something which is covered a lot by a lot of people. So this is again something which I would not like to cover at this point in time, because I think all of you can like read about this and understand. It's fairly simple to understand. This is something which I feel not a lot of people talk about.
Correct.
Product life cycle is something which I feel is a very important concept. Basically, when you're trying to design any sort of thing for your existing brand, an important aspect over here becomes trying to understand at which stage of the life cycle the product lies, whether it has still been introduced or it is in a growth phase, it has matured in the market, or it is declining. So here I would like any one of you, if you'd like to volunteer, I'd like ask you a question and then I would like to see how you apply it over here.
Hello, sir. Myself, Rahul. I will be volunteering for this.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
So Rahul, if suppose today I ask you that of the different fruit juices which exist in the market.
Yes, sir.
If I if I tell you that you just tell me in what stage of the life cycle the different brands of the fruit juices which you know, where they lie. So like what will your answer be?
Starting with the paper boat, I think they are into the growth state because they have been coming with exciting packages, and also they have been inclined towards the traditional consumer marketing, how we perceive the daily trends. And talking about Tropicana, I think they are into the mature stage just because they have been into that 6-pack packaging which has been introduced 3 to 4 years back. They are still into that same performer. And talking about couple years or Capiva and Capiva products and other brands which are basically focusing on Ayurvedic based product, they are into the introduction phase because in India post COVID there has been a lot of immunity concept coming up. So these products have started seeing a drastic increase in the sales. Talking
Okay. So
about,
Rahul, right now, so you've told me about 3 brands in 3 different stages of their life cycle. So how do you think the marketing strategy for each of these 3 brands will be different?
so sir, basically talking about the introduction phase that we talked about is Kapiva or the other brand wellness product, which basically focus on our Ayurvedic benefits. So basically for them, the most important thing is to let the people know about the product attributes, because people are still not aware about the Ayurvedic benefits that we are focusing on. So the main for marketing focus should be into the marketing those benefits to the customer. Talking about the growth stage, because Paperboat is already knowing, he's already been a brand and it's been established as a company, so it's better to promote the project and go deep into the markets and try and explore different types of market now, rather than sticking to the teens or middle-aged people. And talking about Tropicana, which is I think one of the first brand that has come with a juice concept, portable juice concept. So basically, they should relate and come up with different types of packaging. They should also come with a different type of exciting offers, because immunity has come into the picture. So there should be a point of differentiation that has to be taken place while you are calculating or forming a marketing strategy for that particular project.
Okay, thank you, Rahul. Basically, there are a few things which you said correct, few things which I would like to change. When it comes to the introduction phase, the objective here becomes in order to spread awareness about your product that this is something which exists. When it comes to the growth phase, your objective is to capture as much market share as possible. So यहाँ पे the objective becomes to like talk about your points of differentiation and how you are better than your competitors. When it comes to maturity, the first aspect becomes is protecting your market share. So firstly, you talk about things which you are very good at and reinforce them in the mind of the consumers. And the second smaller aspect is how you start to here at this point you should start thinking about new things which you can do so that you do not lose out on market share to the brands which are coming up from behind. And if suppose you realize your product is a declining stage, here it is a like a red alert thing, and you should definitely start looking at innovations and things how you can do things differently. Again, a SWOT analysis is something which is like a very common thing. I will not cover it too much. Porter's 5 forces. Porter's 5 forces, I'm not sure if it is very clear to a lot of people, but I have come across a lot of people who don't really know what it is used for. The objective of Porter's 5 forces is to assess the industry attractiveness, whether a particular industry market segment is attractive enough for you to enter into or spend your resources and efforts in order to coming up with strategies in order to enter into this market. And then there's the PESTLE framework, which is for a macro environment analysis. Now, this is something which I wanted to focus on, and that is the marketing cases aspect. Basically, there are 3 kinds of cases which you might be asked to usually give solutions for. One is around the sales aspect. The sales is declining for a brand. The second is for coming up with a new promotion strategy. And the third is like an end-to-end product launch strategy. So this is like one of the last things which I want to talk about. And this is like, suppose this is a marketing case which have been given, is that you work for a feminine care startup which wants to launch a new intimate wash product. How would you go about it? Now, I would like someone to volunteer and like discuss this case with me.
Yeah, Namrita here.
Yeah, hi Namrita. So basically, suppose you are sitting for a marketing interview, and this is a case which you have been given that you've been working for a feminine care startup and which wants to launch a new intimate wash product. How would you go about it? This is the brief which has been given to you. How would you like go about and what would you approach people?
Okay, so firstly, I would like to know what my market wants or what my market has a perception about it and how open are they for or for accepting this. So for that, I will go for the research. Then after that, knowing, for example, if I get to know that people are not very open about calling it an intimate wash product, so I'll have to find strategies that can that can show the product in a different way, but also convey the message, and maybe like that.
See, this was kind of the response I was expecting, that you can start off with 2 or 3 ideas which you get and then you get confused on how to go forward. Before I start talking about how you should approach a case, what should be the solution for this case, I would like to give you a little bit of pointers on how you should always approach a case, especially when it comes to sales and marketing thing. See, there is no one correct answer for this. You should keep this in mind. The entire objective of asking this question is that the interviewer wants to understand what is your thinking process and whether you can think of all possible options which are there. Basically, to test your thinking process and the comprehensiveness of your thinking process as well. So, and always try to approach the cases in a structured manner, like step by step what you should do. That always shows that you have a logical bent of thinking. So whenever you've been given a case like this, firstly, you should ask a few questions about it. See, this is the entire process. I am not sure. So see, basically these are the steps which you should follow in order to come up with an answer to this solution. But even before entering into this, you can ask them a few questions. What is the kind of, if they have thought about any aspects of it, or do they want you to come up with it entirely? Because there might be situations wherein they might define the market for you, they might define the kind of segments they want to target for, or they can ask you to go for end-to-end. So it's always better to ask questions in the beginning to understand what kind of a solution is expected from your end. Suppose you are asked to come up with something absolutely from the beginning. So the first thing which you should do is try to understand the market. What are the kind of products which exist? What are the different brands which exist? What are the kind of spaces in which the people are playing in, whether they are looking for, whether people are talking about being a safe product or being a natural product or being helpful for dryness, irritations, rashes, etc. Then you should go for an STP, try to define which is the kind of consumers you want to talk to. For example, say an intimate wash product will typically, the people you would want to talk to are women living in urban areas belonging to the upper or the upper middle classes and probably educated, because this is visually the kind of segment you would want to talk to. Once you have defined that, then you would try to underline the few features of your product, what kind of pricing it should be, should it be at the same price as the competitors, should it be premium price, should it be priced lower, what are the different distribution channels you should go for. You can go for the traditional pharmacies, or you can have an e-commerce or an online only channel. And then lastly is a kind of promotion strategy which you can have. Now these are a lot of details in order to cover, so you can always ask the interviewer what are the aspects which they would like to focus on. You can lay out for them that this is the kind of flow I will follow, and then you can ask them, and out of these various steps, which are the aspects which you want me to focus on, and then you can answer them accordingly. Due to paucity of time, I will not go through the other cases, but I've listed down that this is the second kind of case in which you can have designing a promotion strategy for the product, and these are the various steps which you should follow while answering this sort of a question. And the third is the sales of your company is different. Now I'll just spend a minute here in case you're given a question about the sales is declining, what you should do. The only thing over here which you have to do is ask as many questions to the interviewer as possible. Try to understand whether it is an industry-wide thing, whether it is happening only to your company, what kind of time period this has been happening for. You keep asking these questions, you'll get to the exact problem which is there, and then that will help you come up with a specific solution for it. These are broadly the 3 types of cases which they can ask you in your GD or in your PI.